Well, my name's Tom Smith. I was actually born in California in 1969. I moved to Benton County in 1976 and have lived here basically ever since. We moved to Gravette, Arkansas, and that's where I went to school all the way through high school.
So tell me what it was like, a young man growing up in Gravette. What was it like when you were a kid?
A lot different then it is now. I mean, Benton County obviously, well, the whole Northwest Quarter did not have the growth going on and the population that it has now. So, really, it was really small town America. I think along that 59 quarter, most of your cities probably had 1,500 people in them, and were just, small, growing up in a small farming community.
Who were some of the local officials that you remembered there in the town, if you did remember them?
Well, growing up, I still remembered David Matthews was a state rep for our area back then. I remembered him. As far as mayors go, I mean, there's been several over the years. And of course, later on, I started to work with him as a lawyer. So kind of hard to just name certain ones, but just over the years, people that you knew were always there, right? You knew everybody back then.
So after you graduated high school, what did you do next?
I started off down at Harding University in college, and then came back up to Northwest Arkansas and finished college in John Brown University over in Salem Springs. And then after I graduated, I guess I graduated college in '92, and I went to law school at the U of A then, and graduated at the University of Arkansas.
So when you first came to practice in Benton County, what did you do and where did you do it?
Right out of law school, I went to the prosecutor's office, and back then, the district was Carroll County and Benton County. And I knew I wanted to get back in Benton County, but I started off in the Carroll County office in '95, worked there probably towards the end of '96, and then opened up a small practice in Gravette, Arkansas, probably around the first of '97, somewhere then. And then stayed just in Gravette till probably about 2000, and then opened up a Bentonville practice too, so I worked out of two offices.
So when you were a practicing lawyer, what were some of the kind of cases that you handled?
Well, being in a small practice, I had a lot of general practice issues. You did a lot of family law, a lot of criminal law, a lot of small business transactions. Of course, personal injury would be part of that. I became the city attorney for the small towns over on Highway 59. I think I did Sulphur Springs, Decatur, Gravette. That became my practice. And then I got a contract with the county working in juvenile court. I was an ad litem, parent counsel. I did FINS, DHS, so I would always have little contracts to go along with my practice. It's kind of how I got into being a judge in juvenile court today.
So how did you go from working in private practice in Gravette to becoming a judge?
Well, of course, being from the area, as my practice growed, got to see a lot of law, and then, of course, with that second office being here in Bentonville, I was in court. I was in court all the time. That was my practice. I was running from court to court, and eventually, as time went on, I kind of knew. I filled in for Judge Klinger on his docket quite a bit over the years. I'd fill in for Judge Finch on the juvenile docket over the years. Filled in for other judges used to be here. Judge Keith, I'd fill in for him. And over time, I would just fill in for the different judges and got to where I knew that's where I wanted my next phase of the legal profession to go to,
So talk about your election to office and then some of the cases that you did since you've been here.
Well, I guess I started running in 2012. This is my 10th year being on the bench, and you have to start basically running a year and a half before. And so I'm in my 10th year on the bench now. My docket currently, I've always done all the juvenile law for Benton County, the juvenile system. I run a civil docket, some family law, some probate. I run the adult drug court. When I took the bench 10 years ago, we started a veterans court. I run that. So I'm able to actually keep a lot of different cases going of all sorts. I don't have just the one or two types I do. I kind of get to do a little bit of everything, and I like that. Of course, our veterans court and drug courts are really focused on rehabilitating people off their issues with either addiction or mental or whatever they're struggling from. It's a big rehabilitation. Those are big rehabilitation courts. And of course, the juvenile. The whole point for our delinquencies is trying to keep them from being adults. Criminal system. And of course, I do the foster care cases with DHS, where we try to keep kids safe and kind of work on families that are in need there. So I kind of have a big array of different cases that I do.
Talk about, I know that juvenile cases are not public record, but just talk in general, some of the observations you've seen that with kids today and what you see in kind of cases you see in juvenile court.
Really, over time, the juvenile cases have really not changed that much. As we've gotten a little bigger, we see a little bit more gun and violent crime than we used to. But for the most part, kids are still kids. I tell people all the time, hey, if you would lock your house, lock your car, protect your property, most stuff wouldn't get stolen. Because, kids, they don't normally break into stuff, but boy, they'll sure open an unlocked car or something. And then, of course, we still work with the same thing we always have. When you have school in session, you're going to have some issues that happen. But as far as a change, we do see a lot more mental health issues in kids earlier. And that probably has to do with COVID and other family strives, because you do have a lot of families that don't have the resources to really keep kids stable. And when a kid's not stable, that leads to some hopelessness, and that of course is going to affect education, stability for their sometimes substance abuse, mental health stability. When there's a lack of family structure, those issues start to really pop up, and we do see that.
When you're talking to students, maybe from the bench or at other places, what kind of advice would you give them to try to help them correct their path?
I do this formula, and I've used it from the beginning, and over time it really hasn't changed. I really focus on 5 key elements. As a kid, and we should do it as adults too, but you got to set goals for yourself. If you don't have positive goals, there's no reason to make good decisions. And once you have your goals, you've got to get your education. As a kid, that's your job. As an adult, if we don't go to work, we don't pay our bills. Well, as a kid, if you don't get an education, you're not going to be able to pay your bills in the future. I tell them to work on their education, have their goals, stay away from the drugs, alcohol, and bad friends. That's normally what gets you off track. Get involved in positive activities, whatever they are, whether it be sports at school, band, choir, youth groups at church, whatever. Find positive things to do, that way you don't have wasted times. And then of course, they've got to know that their physical health and mental health and social health is in good shape. Sometimes we need to get them counseling. But if they can focus on those five things, any young person can be successful. But you have to stick to the plan.
Can you think of any examples maybe where that has worked for kids, or some tough cases maybe where you've seen turnarounds?
You know what? We've had lots of kids over the years really turning around. I've had kids go from being in foster care their whole young life to graduating college, getting degrees, and going on and going into social work and or other things and helping other people. We've seen kids come out of our delinquency court when they were struggling young, making poor choices, go on and do great in school. I've had a lot of kids that didn't really like school, but they've gone on the Job Corps or some other program, learn a trade, and now they're making all sorts of good income, either being an electrician or plumber or chefs. In fact, a lot of young people turn into chefs. So yeah, there's lots of turnarounds. In fact, if we handle the situation right, most of our young people don't become criminals in the adult system. The average is 10% will. We try to cut that down to 5 in our area with the right resources.
You gave your 5 key points, and those are all good. What's something else you might say if you were counseling a kid and was really struggling even with that? What might you tell them some things they could do to really make a difference?
Well, I mean, lots of times they're missing either a family structure that's positive or just people in their life that are positive. And we really focus on finding something they like to find the right mentors in their life to help cover that. Over the years, we've started a boxing class. Well, the boxing class was something they liked, but the people teaching the classes who could be their mentors and fill gaps. We've started a CrossFit class. CrossFit's great for your physical health, makes you feel good about yourself, but what were they really doing? They were really learning, meeting mentors. We ran that with a local business and still do, and also our deputies from the sheriff's office. We've teamed up with them. So they meet deputies working out with them, mentoring them for the future. I really encourage people to find positive influences as they do positive things. Because if you don't, lots of times it's just negative the rest of the time.
Tell me more about the partnership with the deputies at the sheriff's office and what they do and how maybe that's helpful.
We've had several over the years that kind of come and go, but one that's really lasted the last 4 or 5 years is we have a CrossFit program. We try to run it for sure in the falls. We're trying to increase that again to the fall and spring, but we'll have a local owner of one of those come in, teach classes, and as part of that, deputies volunteer to help run the classes and learn about these kids and help them work out. Because obviously fitness is a big part for our law enforcement, and they're able to help and mentor and help those kids in those classes.
How important is it for kids to try hard in school to be successful later?
Well, I mean, the data supports itself, right? It's easy just for us to tell them the better off in education you do, the better off in life you do. It's not like that 100% of the time, but the reality of it is, for anybody, it's hard to survive as an adult in this world. It's hard to make enough money just to pay your bills. And without the education, without the ability to get a job that can open up new paths with more money, it's going to be a struggle. The less education you have, the less chances you are to ever get ahead. The more stress you have as an adult, the higher the chances are to fall into addiction, to fall into the criminal system, to make choices out of desperation that you would have had if you would have just focused on setting your plan when you were young. And it's easy to say, hard to do sometimes.
Your position now here, you're the presiding judge, I think they call
Administrative
it.
judge, yeah.
Yeah.
Administrative judge.
So tell me a little bit about the team you have on the bench. You have I've been told by lawyers that there's a great team of judges here in Benton County. Can you tell me a little bit about them?
You know, I've been very fortunate the whole time I've been a judge. We tried to really all be considerate of each other and work with each other, but specifically in Benton County, and I don't think all counties do this, all of our judges meet every month. We set an agenda. In fact, I just sent out the agenda for next week and asked for any other items that need to come up. But we meet every month, have lunch together every month, so we know what's going on in the other courts, know what other judges are saying, ask questions of each other, but more importantly, just keep the camaraderie and make sure everybody's on the same page. You know, everybody has a lot going on, and you want to make sure that things are semi the same. All the judges are different, but we don't want people to think that life changes a whole lot from judge to judge, or you're going to be treated differently. So we try to all be fair and try to be mindful, but we try to run a system. One thing I teach, and I get the luxury more than the other judges, you know, everything I do deals with teams. You know, lots of judges have a court reporter and a trial assistant, and that's about it. Well, with my juvenile, I have a juvenile staff of approximately 23 to 25 people over there that we work with. That's one team. I have a DHS in foster care program that we have the call, which is our foster families. We have CASAs, what are court-appointed special advocates. We have the parent council. We have the ad litems. We have the workers. We have a team there that has to work together to help foster families. My drug court team is made up of about, 12, 13 people that are working together from all branches of the system to help people get off drugs. You work with providers, you work with probation, you work with counselors, you work with the prosecutor, defense lawyer. So really, and the veterans court's the same way. We team up with the VA, their providers. So everything that we do is based on the system has to have a good team to work. It's not about just the judge. I'm one part of that, and we try, and I emphasize that everybody involved in the system matters to make it work. Well, we do the same thing with our judges. We're part of a judicial system, and we want to make sure we've got relationships with each other that stay on the same page.
What about the tremendous growth that you've seen in the time you've been on the bench and the number of cases? Talk about that.
Well, we just got another judge last year, and even with that judge, we're still either number one or number two in the state on case counts. That's how fast we're growing. This isn't going to stop for our judicial system. We have to be prepared to grow it as the population grows. I don't necessarily think things are good getting out of hand in Benton County, but the reality of it is, as you have more people move here, you're going to have more case numbers. In fact, and I try to keep up with that closely because I'm on that committee in Little Rock that deals with new judges. And we're right at number one still in case counts, and that's literally 1 year after we got a new judge. So it won't be long before we'll have to start dealing with that issue again.
Are you seeing a change in the type of cases, or just the numbers are going up?
I don't know that the change is going out changing that much. I think the numbers are going up probably at the same rate. Maybe we have a little more criminal cases than we used to, percentage-wise, because of growth. The bigger you get, other things happen. But I wouldn't say that that's growing at an outrageous pace, nor would I say it's slower than the growth that we have, right? Juvenile cases, they've stayed fairly flat to the last couple of years, but we've seen some increases that are probably directed to just more kids in the county. I'd say all the other cases probably grow as the population grows,
In the times you've been in court, are there any of the prosecutors that stand out that you want to, and not just in juvenile court, but in criminal courts that you've seen? Who are some of the ones that maybe stand out over the years?
Well, I think all, it all goes back to when Judge Klinger was a prosecutor. Everybody that's a lawyer came through the prosecutor's office in the old days, right? That stuck around. And then as the years have gone on, we've had lots of great prosecutors come and go. I still remember I had gone to school with Bob Bouth when he took the office. Then he went on to be a U.S. attorney, and Van Stone came through. We worked with him closely, and I will say, at least as a defense lawyer then and as a judge now, through Nathan today, our prosecutors have always tried to hire good deputies to be in that office, and I think I would say that's been the case ever since I've started practice. That's always been a goal, to have a good prosecutor staff. And I'd say the same thing with our public defenders too. Jay's been there a long time, running his office, and they've always kept good people in both those offices.
Some of the people we've interviewed have said that Prosecutor Klinger was quite known for his preparation.
Always prepared, and always prepared as a judge. I learned that when I would be in his court. he was always prepared, always fair, always kind, and he's one of the main judges that I've tried to act the same way about for people in my court. I mean, yeah, he was always that way.
What are some of the defense attorneys that stand out over the years that you remember that?
Well, I mean, it's always hard to just give names because there's so many people that have come in and out. But you know, going back when I first started practice, you know, hey, Doug Norwood's been right there doing a lot of criminal practice and changed for this area probably some of the advertising that goes on today. Because when I started practicing, lawyers didn't really advertise. He was one of the first ones that understood marketing yourself and marketing what you do. Because that changed. Of course, I dealt with John Everett down in Fayetteville. He was always been around a long time, still is. W.H. Taylor. Different lawyers over the time when we were smaller, I think probably had more character in the legal profession than years today, than it is today. Today, with Zoom and probably the size and practice and speed of how you do things, it's just it's not quite the family field. Back then, we all knew each other and dealt with each other every day. Now you got a lot more lawyers, you got a lot more people. You may not have quite that closeness that we once had. But maybe they do too. You know, I've been it's been 10 years. I've kind of gotten away from being out there, so I don't know what's going on either.
Several of the people we've talked to have mentioned John Everett, even though he's from Washington County. He's made his mark on a lot of the cases. What was he like? What's he like in court?
Well, he knew how to come across as a small town guy that people could trust. That's really how that's how that came about, you know. You had to have that character that people trusted and liked. He was able to do that, but at the same time, he was always prepared and he's smart. So you can't forget that aspect of it too. You want to have all those keys. You got to be able to connect if you're in front of a jury, but you also have to be prepared. You got to be smart, quick on your feet.
Well, as a judge, you see the work that your local police do. So let's talk about the sheriff's office and the police in the area. What kind of a job are they doing here?
I think they do an excellent job, especially, you know, our juvenile docket. We move it fast. From the time a kid gets arrested, we have them within 7 days in an intake office, and we arraign them within 14 days. And all of our law enforcement knows that, and we always have our reports. They work their cases up. We don't have delays, and I appreciate that from them. And when they come through, what I see of them is always prepared, and I think they do good work. And I think we can see that in our numbers for our county, our size. Go compare us to other counties, and I think we have good law enforcement, and we have data that proves that.
How important is good law enforcement in Benton County?
Oh, well, you got it. I mean, if you don't have good law enforcement, you're losing a critical element. I mean, we have seen across. You can turn on the TV and watch CNN or Fox or pick your station. If there's breakdowns in the system, bad things are going to happen, and you have to work hard to keep that from happening. You know, law enforcement has a contact with a lot of people in Benton County on a daily basis, and if they're not having good training and good PR skills and how people interact with law enforcement, that's going to create bigger problems. And I think all of our agencies do a very good job of trying to keep that from happening. You know, law enforcement's there to protect, but they're also there to mentor and earn the trust of people. People have to have that trust, and I feel like they've got that trust in our law enforcement.
What are some things maybe that I haven't thought to ask about? There are some things that are on your mind, or important things about the county and the courts here.
Well, I think we've kind of hit on it, but I think it's important for at least for Benton County. We have grown a bunch, and to this point, we've been able to still keep what I believe is one of the better systems, not just in the state but in the area, to stay on top of crime, stay on top of the judicial system. But I think it's important for us all to remember the future is here. It's now. The growth has been coming a long time. I don't think we as a community get to just pretend like we don't need to realize those resources. If you don't spend resources on your judiciary and law enforcement, you're going to find yourself behind the 8 ball in a hurry. It takes a lot to keep up. And I think we just need to recognize, you don't ever tell or want people to be wasteful or just, go crazy with spending, but there's always the debate on what we need and what we don't need. Well, you can look around and realize it's getting hard to keep up without planning for the future. So I would just encourage everybody, when you hear about the future is now. And it's been here. And we need to prepare for it. Because it's not going to stop growing anytime soon. And we're not going to stop getting cases anytime soon. And like I said, a year ago, we got a new judge. Our judiciary is already the top case count in the state. We can only imagine how fast that's going to continue. It's not stopping. It's a blessing for Benton County, but we also have to take care of what situations that presents and deal with it the right way as well.
If a parent or an adult came to you and said, Judge, what can we do to help keep kids out of trouble? What would you tell them?
Get involved with your kids. First of all, you got to have 2 parents in the home that want to be involved with their kids. That you see a lot less of that. Even if you have 1 parent in the home, they're not involved because they got their own problems. I think we all need to go kind of take a step back and realize we all need to be accountable to ourselves. We all need to seek help from others. And we all need to go, if I'm going to bring kids into this world, what am I going to do to live up to my responsibilities? And the responsibilities are just like I said from the beginning. Those 5 things I tell people to do when they come to court, that needs to be parents telling them that. I should never ever have to be involved in making some kid go to school. That's ridiculous. Where's the family? Where's the situation? Where's the support for the family taking care of those issues so we don't have to deal with it? That's what I tell people. Get involved with your kids.
Good. Is there anything else you want to talk about before I get to the last couple questions?
Not really. I mean, I think it's important that we all are there and keep in mind people have struggles, and we need to be there to help people that have those struggles, because there's nobody perfect in this world.
If someone came to you who had never been to Benton County, maybe somebody from another state or a different part of the state, and said, Judge, tell me about Benton County, what would you tell them?
Oh, it's a great place to live. I mean, obviously, I've stayed here my whole life. I've enjoyed seeing the growth. I've enjoyed seeing the opportunities. I've enjoyed seeing what this area has been able to accomplish. And of course, now, at the same time, I would tell people, we're not a big city yet, but as we do get bigger, I want us to be prepared. And that's with everything, We have a lot of blessings coming our way, but just, you're still going to have to be prepared. How's people going to travel? Roads is a new issue coming up. You don't want people to feel like they have no hope and can keep up to afford a house. Affordable housing is a real issue where everybody can live. Proper schools, they're growing at fast rates. We need to not forget them. So we've had a lot of great things happen in our area, but there's also growing pains. And you can't just go, I don't want to deal with the growing pains. You got to take care of the pains to enjoy all these great luxuries that we have, because there's a lot of them.
The last question is, how would you complete this sentence? My favorite thing about Benton County is?
For me, I still think it's the people. I've loved when we had the real small town communities. I love what we've grown into. I love the buy-in from people helping people. I don't think people realize how many groups are out there still helping. I work with a lot of 501s that are specifically designed to help people in need. And I think we take for granted what helping others is about. I think we take for granted what a luxury it is to have people willing to help. Because once we stop helping each other, and once we let the real world stressors of life take over, you can lose a lot of families to a lot of problems quick. And I think we still do a great job of trying to keep that from happening. And I can't say enough about that.